Okay, I brought this subject up in the last video, and I've gotten a lot of responses from it, very strong responses. And I decided that I'm going to actually share the Tibetan elemental, the color and element doctrine. As I was taught it. Now, the first thing I'd like to say is that I'm coming at this still from a student. Now, I've been working with this for 12 years, so I have a good bit of experience in it, but like most things in Tibetan Bon, it's deceptively simple. It really is deceptively simple. It looks really simple, but once you start to dive in all of these teachings, that you start to realize how incredibly deep they are and how they run through everything. As I'm moving into my cosmology training right now with His Holiness Padma-Gampo Rinpoche, I am learning things that I've suspected over the years. This is, what I'm telling you is very, very basic. It is not everything, and it even as it gets more and more advanced, it even changes in the understanding of it and really who the players are, I guess, is what I'm going to say, of the elements. All right, and even what the elements do. So understand that this is coming from this is a really basic understanding, because people will go, okay, hey, what is this stuff? This stuff is amazing. This is the actual star, and now many of you know the star. There's a lot of theories about this star. It's a satanic symbol. It's a devil symbol. It's from paganism. It's actually a Tibetan symbol, and this was like the first thing my master taught me when I met him, like 5 minutes after meeting him. He pulled it out of his robes, out of his sleeve, and he said, hey, and he had a little picture of this. And this is actually my friend Francesco, wonderful Francesco, made this for me. He made this, he drilled this in here and burned this in here for me, so I would always have it, because this is, I use my dice are in here that I use for Tibetan divination and for building kill cores. So he made me this set. He made the dice for me. He colored the dice for me with the actual colors of the elements, and then burned this in for me. So I love him tremendously. He did a beautiful job after years of carrying around this little piece of paper, because I still go visual when I do this stuff, and I still like to look at it, but I don't have to carry around a piece of paper anymore. I have this box with me all the time, and it's right on the lid. So I'm going to use this box to show you guys now. There's 5 elements. Wind and wood, okay, are one element, and fire, earth, metal, and water. Okay, now this is how my master taught it to me when I met him, and this is what really blew my mind. Now, some of you may know this. Those of you who do acupuncture and those of you who know traditional Chinese medicine, you will have seen this star there. It has been incorporated in Chinese medicine from the original Tibetan stuff, and this is actually used in Tibetan medicine as well, and in healing. And this encompasses every area of your life. The stuff that this shows you about what's going on in a person's body is startling. And when you start to see that, and you start to see what's going on in Western medicine, you're like this. That's the only way I can put it. It's like Western medicine, you're like. Let me show you quickly how this works, and then I'm going to leave this video for today, because I just want this to kind of sink in. Now, I hesitated doing this for years and years and years. I didn't really want this. I didn't really want to be the one to necessarily share it, because the weirdest thing about this stuff is that when you start to share the basics and someone doesn't have a master to help lead them along, what they do then is they start to fill in gaps, and they start to make up their own stuff, and the next thing you know, you've got a new religion. So if a new religion comes out of this, and you didn't get it here. anyone who really wants to study this stuff seriously, I suggest you friend His Holiness Paramagampa Rinpoche. This changed my life when I learned it. And I talked a little bit about that in yesterday's video. If you haven't seen it, go back. I talked a little bit about sacred geometry and the elements. But I'm going to show you how the elements work. So this is wind, and wood is green. Wind and wood gives birth to fire. Fire gives birth to earth. Earth gives birth to metal. Metal gives birth to water. And then water gives birth to wind and wood. Okay? It's that simple. That's all you need to know. Now, so if you go round the circle, you'll see that each one has a supportive or, a creative relationship. One gives birth to the other. If you go across, it's a destructive relationship. So wind and wood destroys or eats earth. Earth eats or destroys water.
Yeah, I know.
Water eats or destroys red, which is fire. Fire, which is red, eats and destroys metal. Metal, which is white, eats and destroys wind and wood. Now, knowing that each one has a creative and destructive aspect, you can see by what I was talking about yesterday, that each person that you meet has a primary and a secondary, one of these. And in some cases, like I said, more, and in those cases it's usually confused. When a person has more than just two, it usually gets really complicated, and they usually have challenges. That doesn't mean that just because you have challenges in life, you have more than two. Believe me, there's plenty of, like for example, someone who has both opposite colors in their life. So let's say their primary is yellow and their secondary is blue. They could constantly be at war with themselves, and then because the one destroys the other. So they could constantly be struggling with that kind of energy and within themselves, working within themselves, working within their own nature. Same thing with white and green, same thing with white and red, same thing with red and blue, same thing with green and yellow. Okay, those who have supportive colors, like say white and blue, they tend to be a little, one tends to strengthen the other. They tend to be a little more solid. That doesn't mean that one's better than the other. It just means that the way the person goes about life is differently. And personally, I will say from my own experience, these opposite ones, when you have the opposite ones, it's kind of challenging. However, I have seen people who have a supportive set of ones go have incredible challenges as well. So we all have challenges, we all have gifts, we all have blessings. Each one of the 5 colors is necessary, not one. Each one of the 5 elements is necessary. 5 colors is necessary, not one. One is not better than the other. So it's not, one is not stronger than the other, it's just they're different. They all have their own qualities. The qualities is something that really you start to get into when you study, because we don't just put books out there and say, well, these are the qualities, because there are a lot of Qigong things and Chinese medicine things that talk about the qualities, but you really don't start to understand what the elements are and their qualities until you start to work with them. And we do experiments in Tibetan Bond to see what the actual qualities are, and we use energy and we actually feel them and we use them and we work with them, and we see what happens when we put one into a situation and we see what response is, or put another in the situation. So we actually work with the elements to understand them. So that's why I say I've been working with these for a very long time, for 12 years, and I'm still breaking open this tiny little illustration here on this little star. It has changed my life. And I will tell you that some of the things that people see me do that freaks them out, I can meet a stranger, I can observe what their colors are, I can figure out from what their colors are what's happening with their spouse, even if the spouse isn't there, just from some of the things they say. And I can describe their spouse to them, and they're like, how did you know all this? Because I know how this stuff works. And some of you guys who've gotten readings from me, and some of my students, you're like, how did you figure that out? It's like this. I know how the energies work, and it's really no mystery. And the stuff about psychic ability and mystery schools and stuff like in Tibetan Bond, this stuff isn't a mystery. When you go to a master, the master teaches you, and then you work with it, and then you unlock the information. And this is not about a mystery. It's about this is how the world works. This is how everything in the material world comes into being, interacts with each other, and what happens. So, in relationships, people of different elements will have different reactions to each other. That's why you might get along with some people, but you don't get along with other people. Some people, it may seem very volatile. Maybe you're wind and the other person is earth, and you guys don't get along at all because wind likes to run around and be free and be social and blow through things. Earth wants to sit still and control everything. And they do not like each other when that happens. And yet, green will feed on yellow. So sometimes people will be drawn to that in a relationship, and in the end, the two end up wanting to kill each other. The same thing happens with blue and yellow. Sometimes that happens with white and red. Sometimes the white wants to the white wants a clean open space, and the red wants to fill it with tchotchkes, and the white wants to kill them. So there's a whole lot to this, starting with this little basic little thing. But this is really how the world we're living in, the world we're living in, and the material world operates. It is the elements. It is what we were built of. So that was how His Holiness taught this to me in the beginning, and then I started playing with it right from the beginning. He started giving me lots of experiments, and what you start to see after a while is there are spaces, there are people, there are situations, there are businesses, there are all sorts of things that are made up. Each one is made up of some combination of these elements, and when you look at it and you figure it out, you start to be able to unlock the world around you. So I look for people who can make stuff happen, and I look for people who understand how the natural world works. When I'm going, hey, am I just going to accept your word on you feel that this is this way, or you feel that that's that way? That's one of the reasons why I'm always saying don't use emotion, because emotion, while it's useful for some things, emotion can get in the way of understanding what's actually going on in the space. Emotion can cloud what's really going on here, and specific elements actually are they sort of lend themselves to particular emotions. So if a person's got is overly sentimental, I know what emotion that is. If someone's really attached to family, I tend to know what emotion that is. If someone likes to defend and is all about weapons, I know what kind of person that is. And if a person is kind of weird and is a little freaky and likes to hang their freak flag out and let that freak flag fly, I know what element they are. So, I will say, in all the years I've been using this, I've never seen it fail. So, that's a little bit more about Tibetan Bon and about how the world's put together, and some of the tools that I use when I actually do readings for people, and when I look at compatibility, and when I look at what's going on in the world, and I look at business stuff, and when I do their kill cores, I actually see what elements are at work using Bon processes, and the processes themselves will manipulate the elemental energies and the kill core and make things come into being or remove obstacles and things like that. So, I'm Lucky Lynx, as always, wishing you success and good fortune in all that you do. I hope you enjoyed this. If you guys would like to get a reading from me, 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com. If you'd like me to do your kill core for you, we can talk about that. Same thing, 779-302-8009. If you would like to learn how to do tarot, and if you would like to learn how to do playing cards, if you would like to learn how to use Mexican Loteria or read crystal balls, or I'm missing one, Lenormand. I've got a basic and a Grand Tableau Lenormand. I've got a basic and advanced tarot. If you'd like to take a class in any of these, contact me, 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com, and I will set you up with that. So, for those of you who've donated, thank you very much for donating. If you get something out of these videos and you would like to donate to help keep them coming, then please, I will put my PayPal, my Venmo below. Hope you enjoyed this. You guys have a fantastic week.